Yo, get up, nah I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer. Rising the song to the highest bidder. Got juice, got gas, I'ma move fast. New shoes, new tracks, like who's that? I'm new, come back, better than last. Yeah, it's a new me, never gonna look back. Never gonna look back. Cause damn, I was built to last. You move slow and I move fast. And that's facts.
Welcome back to Bears on Tracks, part of CHGO Sports Podcast. I'm your host with the most, Brandon Trackside, and today we're breaking down why the Bears must draft Michigan's defensive tackle, double nickel, Mason Graham with the 10th overall pick. We're diving deep into stats, analytics, and expert analysis to explain why this pick could transform the Bears defense under new defensive coordinator Dennis Allen. But before we jump in, big announcement. We're pushing to reach 3,000 subscribers. We're right around 2,700 thanks to you guys. And that's on YouTube, by the way. And once we hit that milestone, we're giving away a free jersey of the winner's choice. That's right. Subscribe, like, and share this video. You all know what to do for your shot to win a brand new Bears jersey. Will it be Caleb Williams, DJ Moore, maybe even a double nickel Mason Graham Bears jersey if this pick happens, folks? All right, let's get into it, guys. Today are my guests, Tony and Jake. Tony and Jake, how are we feeling tonight, guys?
Feel pretty good. Pretty good.
Awesome.
Anytime we get to talk some Bears, it always fires me up.
Dude, I'll tell you what, you guys fire me up, man. I tell you what, Jake, man, this guy, he's killing at all levels. Track, football, you name it, he's got it. He plays the line. He knows the game. He learned it from his father, Tony, over here, man. Lifelong Bears fan. We'll get into it really quick. But first, on the top of it all, so why must we draft a guy, the double nickel Mason Graham at number 10? Well, in order to answer that, hey, first off, thanks everybody for being in the chat. We appreciate you showing up and showing out. You guys are awesome. Couldn't do it without you. So let's watch a highlight reel video from Tracks Incorporated. Let's get right into it. Let's show this video. It's going to be a good one. Can y'all see the video?
Yes.
Yeah.
How's it look?
Look
Amazing.
Wait till we do this in Jim Miller or whoever we got at the casino, bro. They're going to be breaking it down, slowing it down, lasers.
Drop that.
Paintball guns, whoever falls asleep.
Yeah.
Oh, there's the block. You got the big mint on it.
Yeah.
There it goes. Look at it. The big paw.
Does it all.
I don't know if they can hear me. Usually it's muted, but I think like in this section, we could actually hear each other. Let me ask the guys in the chat if they can hear us. If so, that kind of stinks because we could be breaking down these plays.
Right?
Yep. Continuous pursuit, guys. The motor. It don't quit. It don't stop. He never passes up a good celebration either. Look at this. Double. In. Get down.
Drop that.
He only needs a part of his body to take a man down. Did you notice that? That wasn't like a full contact tackle, bro.
No, he packs a good punch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, if you're on your computer, you can go back to your phone and watch yourself on YouTube to see what's going on. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go do that right now. How long? That's it. All right. Shutting her down. Minimize. Hold on, guys. All right. Back to our screen. 1 second, fellas. I get it back. I'll get it back. Man, how was those tracks, guys? Leave it in the comments below if you guys will enjoy that highlight reel, man. So, anyways, right off the top, shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank you so much. Oh, Ken says he can hear me. Oh, let's run it back. Let's give him the full breakdown. No, next time we'll know how to do that. That's awesome. We're learning. We're learning. Anthony says, cool music. Yeah, beats by tracks, bro. What do you expect? Come on, Tony. Hey, Tony. There's 3 Tonys. Tony in the building. All right.
Can't have too many Tonys.
No, never enough Tonys, man. So listen, Tony, right off the top, bro. Why Mason Graham at 10? Tell me.
Simply put, man, he's a beast. This guy's amazing. You look at his stats, and his stats are amazing, but as everybody knows, defensive tackles aren't supposed to have great stats. I mean, this guy, we just saw a whole highlight video of this guy making amazing plays, but that's not even where he excels. I mean, this guy's constantly wreaking havoc in the backfield, whether he's making the play or not. So many times people don't, always realize how a defensive tackle, his job is to break up the plays, take on some blocks, crush that pocket in so that the defensive ends can get in and the quarterback can't step up. Very, very underrated type stuff, and Mason Graham this guy's a beast, man. He's fast. He's got quick hands. I mean, I haven't seen him take a play off. This guy's going 100% every single play and until the whistle blows. I mean, this guy's motor doesn't stop.
Cheryl,
Exactly.
shout out to Cheryl in the chat. She's giving us the updates of the Chicago Bulls versus Denver. Bulls are down by 2, nothing new. What up, Dobbs? Really quickly, just want to take care of everybody. Montana Shy in the building. One of our moderators, make sure we keep out the bad guys. Tony, speaking of bad guys, Mason Graham, if he's not on our team, he is an official bad guy and a badass. This guy is 6'3", 318 pounds, wrecking machine from Michigan. You guys love Michigan Wolverines, and that's why I wanted to bring you guys in the building because, hey, man, for the first time ever, for a premiere, you guys are doing pretty damn good. So shout out to everybody in the chat. Please give these two wonderful guys a shout out. They're doing a great job. Love having them in the building. We've talked a lot of Bears at exhaust, and dude, these guys, they know what they're talking about. They're diehard Bear fans just like you and me. I couldn't agree with you more, Tony. He's got a motor that doesn't stop. And what did you say when we were watching it in the backstage when everybody could actually hear us, which was kind of funny? You said something about on the block, the field goal block.
Oh, yeah. So, when I first saw that, everybody thinks Kenneth Grant blocked that. That was Mason Graham there.
Yeah. Well, and rightfully so. He's right in the middle, right? But you have to watch the highlight and check it out. And that's why your boy Trax circled it. Okay.
And he does everything, that guy.
Bro, he does. So, here's the deal. Like I said, we're talking 6'3", 318 pounds. His ability to disrupt plays in the backfield. He finished the season with 34 tackles, 7.5 tackles for a loss, and 3 sacks. What does that say to you? Well, it says to your boy Traxy, it says, listen, he does more than just be a disruptor. And, sometimes the stats don't lie, but you got to have the eye test. Tony and I were talking about that earlier today. We don't necessarily believe all the stats because he makes stats for other people, and you can see it. Every play, he is a space eater. He's a gap clogger and a guy who makes everyone around him better. And let's just talk about Jake, because Jake, tell everybody where you're at, where you go to school. Tell them the prestigious record that you guys have and the program that you have, being a varsity player, and that rarely doesn't happen unless you're junior or senior, and how, tell them a little bit about yourself, because I'll tell you what, I could do no justice for what this kid does. I seen him over there at Nazarene the other day where the Bears used to practice. This kid threw a freaking shot put that basically almost landed in Lake Michigan. It was ridiculous. Jake, tell him all about you, buddy.
Yeah, I'm Jake Cavalunas. I do football and track and field, and I've been playing football since I was about 5 years old, so it's been a part of my life since I can remember. Everything about the Bears is all in my heart, and going off of Michigan, anything that has to do with Michigan is also in our heart because we have a lake house out there, and we are huge Michigan Wolverine fans. So watching Mason Graham is just the best part of the best defensive line. They got Josiah Stewart, Kenneth Grant. It's hard for him to shine with all these stars on one line, and he's still the spotlight.
Dude, you took the words right in my mouth, and you know what? Shout out to you. Great job, man. Great job, man. I couldn't even tell this is your premiere. Both you guys are killing it on all levels. So, exactly, man. The Bears ranked 31st in pressure rate last season, dead last in QB hits. It's totally unacceptable, guys. That is not Bears defense. You guys know that. You've had freaking Dan Hampton. You've had Doug Plank in your building, Jim Morrissey. All the Bears greats have showed up to Worst Stadium Club, our proud sponsor. And I'm going to tell you what, guys. These guys knew what it was like to play defense. I'm sure they're just as embarrassed as you are, Tony. And that's what we need. We need a difference maker up front, bro. We need Mason Graham, who had a 15.2 pass rush win rate, one of the highest among interior linemen in college football. And here's the key. He's not just a pass rush guy. He's a lead up against the run. The Bears gave up 4.5 yards per carry last season. If I do the math, and my math ain't mathin' like, Tony and Jake's is, but if I do the math, They basically need like 2.25 runs or something like that in order to get a first down. So why even pass the ball? Just run it down our throats every time, right up the middle, right, boys? Make no mistake about it. You draft Graham, and suddenly you're forcing teams into 2nd and long, 3rd and long in situations, and that's exactly what Dennis Allen wants for his aggressive defensive scheme. So let me ask you guys a question. Tony, does Graham fit Dennis Allen's defense?
Oh, without a doubt. Let me put it to you this way. I mean, what do we all ultimately want? Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Who won the Super Bowl this year? The Philadelphia Eagles.
Eagles, bro.
The Eagles were not short on defensive linemen whatsoever.
No.
I mean, they kept everybody fresh.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine our line this year: Montez Sweat, Gervin Dexter. If you have Mason Graham, then you got either Booker or Odingbo on the outside. I mean, and then you have Billings in there. These guys constantly rotating in and out keeps them fresh.
Nice.
2, you draft Mason Graham. Not only does it add another lineman, which you can, even coming from Ryan Poles, you can never have too many.
Right.
Now all of a sudden, you have a rotation which keeps everybody fresh, and you're also adding to your future because now you're adding a young guy to it. Jarrett's not going to be there for a long time. He's got a couple good years left in him. Billings only has a couple years left, so you got to start thinking of your future when it comes to the line. So Mason Graham kills 2 birds with 1 stone for the now and also for the late, for future.
Yep.
So I would love. Now let me say this.
What you got?
I would absolutely love for them to get Mason Graham.
Bro.
Brandon, I ask you, man, you think he's going to be there?
I think he'd be there. Hey, if he's there, I'm running to the podium, dude. I'm going.
Absolutely.
Let's go streaking. All 3 of us, dude. Let's do it. All right. Just don't let Jen know what's going on. We won't tell our But listen, I agree with you. 100% Dennis Allen's defense, Tony, it dominates in the trenches. His system is built on gap discipline, interior pressure, and rotational versatility, which you just talked about, the rotation, And Graham is a perfect 3-tech tackle. He can line up over the guard with leverage and collapse the pocket. He can also line up over the tackle. The Bears haven't had a dominant 3-tech since Tommy Harris in almost 2 decades. This guy is that dude. You add Graham, and suddenly Montez Sweat has a guy who can take pressure off him. That makes your entire pass rush better. What do you say, Jake? Do you agree with this from your perspective over there, bro?
100%. He's a huge guy, but he's so quick with his hands. He could be an edge. He's amazing. He's a 10 out of 10.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, Jake, make no mistake about it. Everybody has been clamoring and upset about the whole Jalen Carter muff, and he went to Philly. Chris Jones in Kansas City, interior pressure wins today's NFL. Tony was talking about that earlier with Philly. Mason Graham has the tools to be that dude for the guys in Chicago. But I'll tell you what right now, Ryan Poles, if you're listening, and you better, because we're the smartest fans in the universe. Not really. I'm pretty stupid, but I'm a diehard Bears fan. I will tell you this much. Here's the deal. If you run to the podium and get Mason Graham, all sins are forgiven for giving up on Jalen Carter, because I think that this guy could be better than Jalen Carter. He potentially could be that dude, and he is the future. And like Tony said earlier, to piggyback off of what he was talking about, he said that we got a guy in the building right now, signed, 31 years old. He's still a veteran. And listen, not many guys get a national press conference from the owner of the team that just traded him off. And guess what? That's what happened when we picked up that dude from the Falcons, man. I'm going to tell you right now. I watched it. I watched it before my very eyes. Not everybody gets that, but that dude got it. And guess what? That dude's in the building. And guess what he could do with Mason Graham? Guess what he could do with all the young guys in the building?
Oh, hell yeah.
Show them. Iron sharpens iron, dude. And that guy is definitely where it's at. And you've got to think of the future, like Tony said. And that's why we thought about the future when we brought Jake in the building. So with that being said, guys, you got Ashton Jeanty and Tyler Warren. Who are you picking? Are you picking Ashton Jeanty or Tyler Warren, or are you still going Mason Graham? You first, Tony.
Mason Graham all the way. Mason Graham drops down to 10. First of all, if you look at all the mock drafts and you look at all these other guys that are analysts, everybody has Mason Graham ranked as the top 5 of the best prospects in the draft.
Yes, sir.
If he drops down to 10, you got to take him. Now, I get that Ashton Jeanty, he's a superstar in the making.
Yep.
But Super Bowls are won in the trenches, man. And especially with how deep this running back class is. I mean, you can go get yourself a very talented guy in the second round, maybe even in the third round. But I mean, I think they go out and my dream scenario would be Mason Graham in the first round. Go get a quality running back and another offensive lineman in the second round, because there'll still be some quality players there. And we'll be on our way. So
I'll tell you what, with that offensive line, the guys that we just signed in the building, and listen, we've actually got a coach in Ben Johnson. This guy is not going to allow sloppy blocks. What did he say to the receivers? If you don't block, you don't get the rock. So guess what happens if the offensive line don't block? What do you don't get? You probably don't get a seat on the bench. You got to stand up all damn day. And guess what? Shoelace Express, you're not getting on the bus. You're not getting on the airplane. This guy doesn't mess around. Dennis Allen either. Freaking offensive. Listen, Eric Bieniemy, that guy is the dude, man. He's the real deal. And not rush hour and his backup offensive line coach. You got all of these guys in the building, including the left guard that we just signed, perennial Pro Bowler and 4-time Super Bowl champ at left guard. That's important. That is huge. That's crucial. That guy changes stuff. We are going to see some guys that are going to have breakouts like Braxton Jones. Make no mistake about it. He's got a long way to go. But when you got a guy right there to your right, that's got your 6 at left guard, oh my God, talk about a difference maker. It's going to be difference because he's going to get that from the conduit. It all starts with the field general as a center, the smartest guy in the building. The center passes it on to the left guard, to the right guard. You know what, Jake? You know what I'm talking about. It's the same thing on the defensive line. You always got a guy that passes all that stuff on and helps everybody out. And that's going to be the difference maker because we've actually got a verifiable center the first time in the history of ever since Olin Kreutz. It's been a couple decades since we finally got a center, guys. I'm excited about it. I agree with Tony. You don't need an Ashton Jeanty. You don't have to have an Ashton Jeanty to cook. I think a guy like Jake's in track. I guarantee you we can get 5-6 yards out of Jake right up the middle. Hey, I'll tell you what, Tony, you might even be able to get a couple, and Trax might be able to get 1 or 2. So
all right, let's not push it too far.
Okay, maybe.
But I'll tell you one thing. Brandon. You're talking about the leadership on the offensive line.
Yes.
One thing that a lot of people aren't looking at: Bears have a history of not being able to promote their guys and bring offensive linemen along, defensive linemen. Think about it. Our coaches, we have not had quality coaches in that building in a long time.
Yes.
Ben Johnson put together one of the best coaching staffs. And listen, you might take a guy like Braxton Jones and turn him into an all-pro. You might take a guy like Matt Pryor or a Bill Murray or whatever. You might take one of those guys and turn them into studs because we just haven't had any coaches that know how to develop these guys, these young guys. Now we do. I mean, we got a lot of great coaches in the building. I mean, look at our running backs coach, Bieniemy. I mean, he was up for being a head coach. We have our defensive coordinator, head coach, Ben Johnson.
Yep.
One of the best offensive minds in the game in the last handful of years.
Yes, sir.
Our coaching staff is uncaged. And I would, I'm getting myself ahead of myself. I'm getting so excited, but there's so much potential there. Let's give these coaches a chance, even if we have a slow start, because I know learning a new system, everything else. But man, I'm telling you, if the Bears can somehow win enough games towards the end of the year, they are going to be a scary team for people to want to play. Nobody's going to want to play this team.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt. There's even guys from other teams right now on podcasts, like the Lions. They're basically like saying, hey, man, they're like, where are the Bears getting all this money? to sign all these guys. They're making all kinds of moves, and the Lions ain't doing diddly squat, and the Packers ain't really done nothing. The Packers are, I think they're still mournful and in shock that we're 1-0 in 2025 against the Packers in Lambeau, man. That's freaking awesome. But listen, Jake, I need you to play devil's advocate. I know where your heart is, and this is probably going to pull your heart out when I have to ask you this question. A lot of good comments in the chat. Cliff says, shout out to Cliff. What up, Cliff? Met Cliff over at Canton, man. He was up there at that game that you guys were at with me. Cliff says, Jeanty Swift would be a nice combo. I agree. Somebody else brings up the point of, where was it at? Oh, Anthony. Henderson in the second round. Hey, man, I'll tell you what. I like that. Henderson in the second round. Here's the deal. Any guy from Ohio State, all these guys from Ohio State, they're all going to make it in the NFL. I would like to have as many guys from Ohio State on the Bears. So, Jake, now that I left with a really good take, let me ask you a question, bro. All right, let's play devil's advocate. There's buzz around Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty and Penn State Tyler Warren. Leave it in the comments below if you guys want to see a Tyler Warren highlight video. I got that for you guys if you guys want it. I've already showed it before. It's an awesome video, though. Could the Bears pivot and go offense? What are you saying, Jake? Is it possible, bro? Could you see that, man?
I could see him going offense, but I also think that Tyler Warren, he's a great tight end. He could be he could end up being a generational tight end.
Yes, sir.
Ashton Jeanty's already looking like he can end up being a generational running back, but it's just those are two positions that the Bears don't need to lean on right now because they already have filler spots right now. I think the D-line is where you need to build because on top of having Jervon Dexter, I got high hopes for him. He's been working his ass off in the offseason. He's looking ripped and a lot faster. I think him, Mason Graham, all on the same defensive line. You can't pass up on Mason Graham if he's there.
No, you couldn't. But let's play devil's advocate. I agree with you. We're all three of us are in agreement. A lot of people in the chat. Listen, the yays have it. The nays lost this round. Okay, but playing devil's advocate, could you see the Bears pivoting to offense, bro? Could you see it? What if you knew? What if you knew in the future that Ryan Poles and Dennis Allen have already strategically looked at a guy like, say, Grant? Maybe they looked at Grant and said, you know what? He could play a very important, key, integral role on the defensive line for, the Chicago Bears. You already know where I'm going with this. You don't have to pick in the first round right away, Jake, right? You're a smart guy,
Yep.
You don't have to pick defense because there's plenty of defensive linemen that are available, not at the skill set of Mason Graham, but as your father spoke earlier, hey, listen, Jake, the deal with this is
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can see you.
I think
you're good.
that Tyler Warren would be the way to go if you go offense. I think Tyler Warren is a generational tight end. I think that at the running back spot, there's also other running backs that you can take in the second round. I also think that at tight end, you can always do a lot of two-set tight ends. And having Tyler Warren there could also be like another offensive lineman because the way he blocks like an offensive lineman.
And he
runs tight end routes like a freaking wide receiver. So he could be a two-position player. I think he's the way to go when you go offense in the first round.
That's a really good point.
That's a great point, Jake.
And Tony brought up a good point the other day. Kind of reminds me of a certain tight end. Kind of reminds me of a certain tight end in the Saints where he could be a QB, right? You've talked about him throwing touchdowns also, Tony.
Hill, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually seen college that Warren actually threw a couple passes. I mean, the guy's he's a gifted athlete, and he also plays hard, and he's not an easy guy to stop. So I would not have a problem with them taking Ashton Jeanty, Tyler Warren. If we go with a Tyler Warren or an Ashton Jeanty, for instance, if we were to go with somebody like that, I would love to see Kenneth Grant drop down to the Bears in the second round because he's also a beast. And, there were sightings that Ben Johnson and Dennis Allen were both at Michigan's pro day, and you still have what's his name, Johnson. You have Will Johnson there. You have Mason Graham, but they also could have been, looking at Kenneth Grant possibly too. So, are the Bears tipping their hand a little? I don't know.
There's so many guys. Listen, and it's right down the street, right? So let's not overthink it. But why wouldn't they be looking? There's so many guys. I even like your guys' running back. I think that guy's a stud. You know what I mean? But now here's the deal. I signed that running back if, and this is a big if Swift could be and he's not a starter, right? I mean, he's definitely a complimentary back. He might be able to work into that, but I kind of need a starter like right now just to take the pressure off Caleb, to have a Swiss Army knife guy out there. So I'm not really, but hey, listen, if he is available in the later rounds, I might pick him up also, because we'll talk about this in a little bit. We don't have a whole lot of depth at offensive line, but getting back to Jake, somebody said earlier, our boy Cliff says, Jake, if Warren was Bowers level, I'd think about taking him at 10 also. So he's agreeing with you, but he's also there's a caveat. He's saying if he's at Bowers level. Now, I will say this, his pro comp is Jeremy Shockey. That's a damn good pro comp. If you
I'd take Jeremy Shockey right now in his prime.
I forgot who the other guy is, but he was no slouch either. I know one of them was Jeremy Shockey, and I stopped right there, and I'm like, listen, all I need to hear is Jeremy Shockey. I'm good with that. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, not everybody can be a Bowers, guys. I mean, that's generational. That doesn't. Hey, and listen, can he do it year 2, year 3? I don't know. But what he did in year 1 was simply fantastic. But what about Ditka, dude? He's still as close as he got to beating all of Ditka's accomplishments and stats. Ditka still has the lead, bro.
Ditka changed the game. He changed the tight end position when he came in.
I agree, brother.
Oh, yeah.
And no one knows it better. Matter of fact, do me a favor. Who's got the autograph helmet right behind you? Whose autograph is on that helmet there, Tony?
The man himself, Mike Ditka.
Boom. There you go.
Coach. Yes, sir. He was a little bit before my time, but I've seen a lot of film of him, and I got to enjoy him as a coach. I was a young man, but I was around when the Bears won in '85. I was 17 years old. He was an amazing man to watch as a coach. I mean, the best thing about him is he didn't take crap from anybody. He'd walk in. You see, everyone's seen the picture of Mike Ditka walking in and flipping off Green Bay. Man, that guy was him and Forrest Gregg used to have some battles, man, and they were fun to watch. That's what we need, is to bring back some of this toughness. We need some guys in there that are tough.
Now, I tell you what, these guys are such nutty NFL fans and Bears fans too. You would not believe. It's like a museum walking in and out of the building of their their house. They got so much, it's ridiculous. They even have an RV, Bears RV, man. It's freaking cool. And Jake's got all kinds of cool stuff. They reloaded when we went to Canton. Oh my gosh, like they literally brought in semis after they left. I mean, I don't even know how they got it. You know what, guys? We're gonna have to bring a U-Haul for the next visit. But hey, listen, getting back to Jake, man, here's the deal, Jake. I got to ask you more questions. Special shout out to FUB1 in the chat. I agree with Jake. So more takes about Jake, more takes about Tony. They like you guys. Hope you guys come back. No pressure though. But listen, here's the deal. Jeanty is intriguing. 1,347 rushing yards, 14 touchdowns. He had the 1 year, and then he exploded in the scene about 2,500 yards, 29 touchdowns this last year. He really, we need another running back. Swift isn't it, and we've got Roshan Johnson. It's not enough. It's not enough, is it, Jake? Don't you think we need? And like you said, your dad said earlier, there's other guys in the draft. We obviously need to reload. I don't even know Roshan's going to be around with that freaking Guardian Galaxy hat that looks like, well, I won't say what it looks like, but you guys kind of know. So here's the deal. outside of that, who's the outlier for you, Jake? Who are you wanting to pick up in the draft if we don't go, like I said earlier, to Ashton Jeanty? Who's your outlier? Who's your guy?
If we're not going Jeanty, who's
As
my
far as a
outlier?
running back, because you already said you go Tyler Warren if we want offense in the first round.
I would say a perfect. I talked about this with my dad recently. A perfect draft. I think if in the second round, if he
Yep.
lied there, Cam Skadoo. I think Cam Skadoo is a dog. He runs people over. He doesn't go out
Yeah.
of bounds. He's shifty. He's fast, and for a small guy, he can run a lot of people over. I think he almost could be a number one in the draft if there was more.
I mean, you
study
would
on him.
take him over the top two dogs at Ohio State?
I
Wow.
would.
Okay, well, hey,
Well, I'll
dude,
tell you what, Jake. I, of course, you and me talked about this before. I love Scatabo. I do.
Yep.
I think we can get him in the third round if we didn't go get a running back.
I agree.
I mean, there's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys that are great runners out there. I do know that at number 10, I don't care either way. I want to get a starter. Make sure they don't take chances. We've had too many guys take chances on players that have the potential. Let's go get a sure thing. At the number 10 pick, there's going to be a sure thing that drops to us.
That's smart.
Ryan Poles has done an amazing job
Yes.
to where we can go get the best player on the board. So I hope that's what they do.
And
I'll tell you what, though, we started this podcast with Mason Graham.
Yep.
It wouldn't shock me that if they love Mason Graham that much that they would take maybe their third or fifth round pick or something and try to move up a little bit and go get Mason Graham. I wouldn't have a problem with that. Now, I don't think I would want to give up a second round. What's that, Brandon?
I said that was crazy because that was my next question to you. And then somebody in the chat wanted to ask you guys, William McClarty, he was asking about Loveland. I asked about Loveland the other day to Jim Miller. He was on the show. He had to remind me every time I interrupt him while he's on Sirius XM radio. He's like, bro, I'm on the show. But I'll answer this to you. He goes, listen, he is a close second to Tyler Warren. He would definitely pick him up. He's a day one starter once he gets in the NFL. How do you feel about picking him up later in the draft? I do know he could potentially go late in the first round, early second. Do you think that's a bit of a reach for all the needs that we got, Tony? And you got an up close and personal, look about him. You and Jake watched him every game of the season. I'll ask Jake also, but first, Tony.
I love the way that guy plays Loveland. He's awesome, but number one, I don't think he's going to drop to the Bears in the second round. I don't even know if he's going to drop late in the first round. I anticipate him going 20 or so. If he's there, absolutely, he's the type of guy you jump on because he's a first round talent, no doubt. So, and we do know that there's a lot of players that are first round talents that drop to the first part of the second round, and we have 2 second rounders, so that's what we're hoping for, right? Someone like a Loveland or, a couple of these guys that are projected to go in the first round, drop to us in the second round. You have to jump on those guys, whether or not we need them or whatever. But like Jake said earlier, you run a lot, Ben Johnson runs a lot of 2 tight end sets.
Yep.
I don't think Loveland is as good of a blocker as Warren is, but I still think that he is talented. He can catch the ball, that's for sure.
Yep.
So, no, I would not have a problem with them going out and getting Loveland by any means, but I don't think he's going to be there in the second round.
For sure.
Jake, what say you?
Yeah, I loved watching Colson Loveland. One of my favorite things about watching him is his attitude. Anything he goes into, he says he's the number one, he's the best of all. He has great attitude, great confidence. He doesn't believe that there's a corner that can guard him. He's got good size. He's got good speed. I think he's a great overall player.
Yeah, I agree. Well, shout out to Phil. Shout out to James, Southside Shy. Thanks for being. Listen, we got a lot of first-time viewers. You guys travel well, man. So appreciate.
Hey, James, I got a shout out to James here.
James,
you made a comment earlier that said you'd love to see Brandon run to the podium with that card. There's a lot of money I would pay to see that sight.
Dude, I would so be all about it, especially if I had the opportunity to pick freaking Mason Graham up, not physically, but pick him up in the draft is what I meant. But listen, guys, Jake, I got to tell you something. Tyler Warren, he's a solid tight end, but we've got Cole Kmet and we've got Smythe, dude. Smythe is a top 10 tight end for blocking in the NFL already. He, all these guys that we draft, Jake, you already know it's potential. It does not mean that it's going to translate in the NFL level the same way that they, kicked guys in the teeth at the college level. You already see that at your level at a prestigious high school that you play at. But like I said, we've got Cole, Kmet, and Smythe. So a tight end at 10, I don't know if that's a way since we've got so many needs. We need to invest in the trenches. As Tony said before, Mason Graham makes too much sense. And Tony, Jake, do me a favor. Give me your final pitch as to why the Bears must, and I repeat, must draft double nickel Mason Graham.
I think it's hands down. He's a day one starter. He's going to go out there. I think he's going to lead himself to be a team captain, even with his attitude and everything. Being along Sweat, Edmonds, all those players, Jervon Dexter, he's going to be a stud out there, and he's going to let all these other players shine while he's shining as himself. Bears need him.
Shout out. Yeah. Shout out to Illinois Jones. Bear down to you, buddy. Christopher House says, I see nothing spectacular about Graham. Listen, bro, you need to get a CNI dog, and you also need to get a second opinion and go to an optometrist that isn't funded cheaply. Okay. But hey, listen, shout out to you, House. We can all agree to disagree, and we can all agree to agree. I disagree with that one. I see a lot of fantastic stuff about Mr. Mason Graham, and I'm not even like a diehard Michigan Wolverine guy. Listen, these two guys, they're not freaking full on meatballs like I am about my Bears and my college teams. If they see a guy that's not pulling their weight, they're not going to say the Bears should draft him, because now you're taking that problem from that team and carrying it over onto our team. Just like I like Caleb from USC. I was excited. I'm like, bring him on. Now, a lot of guys are saying, hey, let's go get that center. I'm like, absolutely not. We do not need that center just because Caleb is used to rubbing his rump and snapping balls from him. That does not mean that we go get him. I'm not freaking excited. I'm not sold on Monahan. I do not think we need him as a center. Therefore, I'm glad that we got who we got in the building from Atlanta Falcons. What say you, Tony? What do you say? Let me get your final speech on why the Bears must draft Mason Graham, and Ryan Poles or makes tracks and runs to the podium to pick him up.
I would say that, obviously his talent, the guy's got quick hands. He's got quick feet, and his motor never stops running. But more than anything, I think he's that type of player that elevates players around him. Teamed up with Montez Sweat and Jarrett and even a new guy, Booker. Everybody's forgetting about Booker too. He technically was supposed to redshirt last year because he wasn't supposed to come out of the draft. It was too early. Let's not close our eyes on him, but Mason Graham will make other players better. I've watched him for years at Michigan. It wasn't like I just looked at the highlight films and said, hey, man, he's changed a lot of games, and I've watched him. I watched him help win the national championship in his 2 years ago. Great player, and he will elevate other people. That's my sales pitch right there.
I like it, and I gotta. Why do I do this? I reel myself in. I pull myself into the sick pond every time. Christopher House, listen, he says, we just invested in Dexter and Pickens. How much draft capital are we going to use on defensive tackle? Listen, we were ranked 32nd. We were running for it. You heard earlier in the chat, unless you weren't paying attention. Listen up. I got to say it again. Teams were averaging 4.5 yards a carry. 4.5 yards a carry. You know what that means? That's 3rd and 1. That's not good. That is not good at all.
Brandon, the other thing is, too, you got to constantly be building those trenches. Jarrett's getting older. Yep. Billings is getting older. Yeah. We picked up a couple older guys, and, we need to get young at that position, too. And like we said, Poles says, you can't have too many pass rushers.
No.
And that plays right into Dennis Allen's hands. That's key for him.
Dennis Allen wants eight guys on the defensive line. You just named 2, Chris. You just named 2. What happens if you lose those 2? Chris, the house is houseless house. Okay? That's what's happening, okay? We need to build this on a foundation of solid rock, this house, not of sand, okay? I'm telling you right now, dude, we need more in the trenches. If we need more in the trenches on the offensive line, we need more trenches in the defensive line. And listen, Slim Pickens is not that dude. We got to go out and get
Pickens
somebody
is
else.
not.
No, he's not that dude. Dexter is that dude, but he needs help. It's going to take a little while to bring him along. But listen, after that, that's it. And Billings, if he goes down, you already saw what happened, and he's just a serviceable defensive lineman.
He's
Now,
a run stopper. What happens on 3rd down and 12?
Yes.
3rd down and 8.
I agree, but you need guys to be moved in and out. Now, you watch a highlight video earlier. You saw Mason Graham line up at the 2, 3, 4 different positions. He can play different positions. That's very important. And like I said before, Dennis Allen says he wants 8 guys on the defensive line, and you want 9 on the offensive line for Ben Johnson. You got to do more in the trenches. And besides, Chris, who would you want if you don't go trenches? Because we already did pretty much everything we needed without trenches, and you saw where it got us. So,
Chris, let me throw this at you too.
Yeah, please.
Look at how dominant Philadelphia was against a stud offensive team in Kansas City.
And the Ravens.
Why did they do that? Because they were rotating, they were staying fresh, and they were in Mahomes' face the whole game. He didn't have a chance to do anything. I'll tell you what, a great defensive line makes an average backfield look great. They make average linebackers look great. A great offensive line makes a good running back look great. An average, a below average running back look good. So the trenches are where it's at, my man. I think we got to keep building those trenches. And so many analysts and GMs, I think, would agree with you that got to build the trenches.
Look at the top teams that had top trenches. Baltimore, playoff team. Philadelphia, Super Bowl champs. Kansas City, high-scoring offense in the NFL. Let's not.
One of the best
there.
defensive tackles in the NFL.
Let's not stop there. Denver, the best offensive, one of the best top 5 offensive lines in the NFL. Now the Bears are top 5 spenders with almost 70 mil spent on the offensive line, and rightfully so. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to stop drafting, because like Tony said, you got to keep a rotation. You got to keep guys fresh. You got to bring in the young blood, just like we did with Jake tonight. The proof's in the pudding. That's what we got to do. We got to get younger. And listen, not everybody on your NFL team, Christopher Houseless, is going to have a 22-year-old stud draft out of college, bro. You can't have that on the whole entire team. The Bears in the last few years have been one of the youngest teams in the NFL. And where did that get us? You got to have some veterans. You got to have some stewards. You got to have some guys that help out. Jake, tell me, on your team, do you or do you not consult with guys that are higher classmen, guys that can help you out, especially when there might be some and I don't want you to call any coaches out because I've never heard you do that. I'm just saying, bro, and coaches can't be there for one guy all the time. They've got all kinds of guys to take care of. But you got that dude that, carries you up by your bootstraps and, helps bring you along. How important is that to have on the team, bro?
It's very important. Not all the time is coaches going to carry you up. Coaches are going to see how tough you are. They're going to beat you down. You're going to need those teammates that can help pick you up and guide you to where you need to be and get you ready for the next play. And it's not always going to be with your coaches. It's going to be with your teammates and your family and your brothers next to you.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, listen, I got some good takes. This Jay Griss says he's not biggest Mason Graham fan, but he will say this. As much as Mason Graham comes up, I get the feeling he could be Mongo-like. Whoa. And
That's a big statement there.
All due respect to the GOAT, Steve Mongo McMichael, who's a friend of ours. Listen, that would be awesome. That would be freaking
That would be amazing.
Bro. That just gave me some.
That just proves my point too about building the defensive trenches.
Yeah.
I mean, the 85 Bears, man, they
Oh my-
won because of that defensive line. I mean, they had the best front seven that I've ever seen. And that's what they put fear into quarterbacks' eyes. You have in today's football, it's not like it was back in the 80s where you had 4 starters and they played 80% of the game, 90% of the game.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's like they almost like baseball. Many years ago, baseball
Pitchers.
starting pitchers would pitch 9 innings.
Yep.
A lot. Nowadays they got specialties. They got your closers, you got your setup guy. You're playing a lot more people. Same goes for football. The new way of doing things is rotating guys in and out so they stay fresh. Fourth quarter. You always heard that saying that the running back wears a defense down. Guess what? A good running back's not going to wear our defense down if we have a boatload of defensive linemen.
That's exactly how Mason Graham played at Michigan as well. He had depth as far down as it could go.
I like that. That's a good take. And Phil has a good take also. He says Mason Graham reminds him of Chris Zorich type defensive tackle prospect. That's good.
Gave it his all. Chris Zorich had his motor running all the time too. That guy was so undersized. He shouldn't have made it in the NFL, but because of his motor, man, that guy he was impressive out there.
And that's coming from a guy that's not really fond of Notre Dame. So listen, Cliff Victoria says Pickens has about 1 more year before he gets called a bust. Dude, that's not clamoring. That's not a applause. That's not applause or anything. You know what I give that? That's what I give.
Yeah, but you know what, Brandon? That's actually a pretty good point because to my point earlier, we have not had quality coaches in the building.
Yep.
So I'm hoping that we're wrong on Pickens. Like maybe one of these coaches gets him close. He flips that switch. It could happen. Quality coaches, they bring the best out in people. So
Absolutely.
I hope you're absolutely right about Pickens. But you can't sit on your hands. And if Pickens is great, more power to us. We have another lineman later on. It's like.
You know what's funny, Tony? The same guys that are probably, and this is like a zebra. You rarely see you rarely see one, but when you do, it's kind of like a panda on a unicycle. It happens every once in a while. And here's the deal: this guy over there, Pickens, the guy that's rooting for Pickens, I guarantee you, he's got a problem with Braxton Jones. And he's arguing against his point, in the fact that, several players around him can make him better, or the coach can make him better. He's probably wanting to get Braxton off the freaking team, but he's wanting to say Pickens. Like, what are we doing? It doesn't make any sense. I do want to make a good point that Illinois Jones got. Kenneth Grant isn't far from Grant in his opinion. He's easily the second best defensive tackle in this draft. How good does that feel being Michigan Wolverines fans to hear that 1 or 2 of these guys could go to your team? And listen, he said he wouldn't hesitate taking him at 10 if there are no viable left tackles available. Is he even saying? I think what Illinois Jones is saying, and I appreciate his takes. He's one of the guys that I like. I like all their takes, but this guy really brings it. Is he saying that he would also be willing to take Grant at 10 also? Would you guys be willing to take Grant at 10 or no?
No.
I don't think Grant is much of as much of a sure thing. I love Grant, but if I were thinking about Grant, I would do everything I can to trade down because I think Grant's going to be a guy that you can easily get late in the teens.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's taken later on, and that's a smart move, and it'll be a force multiplier into getting more picks, right, Tony? Correct. Well, we already heard what Jake said right out the gate. He's like, no. And he loves that dude. He loves him, but he's just, that's too rich for him. Look at this guy, Christopher Houseless. He says, I'm not taking Chris Zorich at 10. Are you freaking kidding me, dude? If Chris Zorich was available at 10, I'd take him right away. Is this guy a Bears fan? Who does he like, man? Are you a Packer backer? You're just freaking coming in here to
Chris. You know what though, Chris? I'm kind of with you that Zorich would not be a number 10 overall pick, hands down, because he was not a sure thing. When he came out of Notre Dame,
Yeah.
Mike Ditka liked him enough that he wanted to take him in the first round, but they didn't take him in the first round, and he was still there in the second round. But Ditka did want to take him in the first round. He did have that quality, but he wasn't a sure thing because he was undersized, And
Yep.
I'll tell you what, I love the combine because it shows how great athletes are, but it also takes away from the type of players that may not be as gifted athletically, but they have a nose for football.
Dude, I'll tell you what, at 6'1", 280 pounds, Chris Zorich in the second round with his muscle on muscle, dude, and you saw him, he had the shirts that, I can't wear, the midriff shirts where you're exposing your abdominals, but it would be rolls for me. That guy was, you know what? I'll take muscle over fat any day. Okay, so listen, I'm not calling Kenneth, and I never would call Mason Graham either fat men, but because they're strong and they could pile drive me into the ground. But I would take that muscle that Zorich had over those two guys.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mason Graham weighed in at like 320. Yeah. And he's put on 6 pounds since then. That's 326. Wow. And there's still some analysts out there that think he's a little small. They want him to get bigger. So imagine that back in 85, they called the fridge because he was over 300. That's now, cool. If you ain't over 300, you're not big enough to play there.
Well, and I'll tell you another thing too. I was watching, who was that? Who was on the show the other day? Anthony Adams, Spice. He said that if you go like 1 pound over, it's 500 pounds a day or $500 a day. So like if you get like 10 pounds over, and I'm sure the money's even more, it's more expensive. You know what I'm saying? But think about that per pound. If you weigh over at wherever you're at this to 2, 3, or 4, if you're overweight, you got to pay that money per day. That's a lot of money, dude. That's a lot of money. Maybe think about it. Chris never had to pay any extra money for that. I'm a big fan of Chris. I think in today's NFL, he would go first round. I could see where all those greats back in the day where he went to second, but he definitely outplayed his drafting in the second round. But I see your point where, and look, what are we talking about anyways, dude? They're just rounds. They're just draft picks. If you land them and they do as good as Chris, not every first rounder or second rounder is going to play as good of a round as, as good of a, career as Chris did. And there's a lot of them in the first and second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. Heck, they went up to the 17s or something, back in the day. And they didn't play good, you know what I'm saying? So it's all kind of, listen, you can get guys late in the draft and they do good, but I don't think Pickens is one of them. I'm sorry. I'd like him to prove me wrong though. Jake, what about you, buddy? Wouldn't you like him to prove us wrong?
I would. I really would.
Jay Grizz, shout out to Jay Grizz. Bears were getting gashed on third down. My high school football coaches used to call me Baby Zorich because I had a bald head and looked and played just like him back in the day. Shout out to you, Jay Grizz. That is a huge freaking I like that, man. That's a solid take, man. I wish I was called Baby Zorich or Baby Z. In polls, Ben Allen, we trust, not to mention he was 5'10", a little shorter than him, but with cleats and, long hair. I could see it. The roar will be restored in Chi-Town. Just wanted to give you guys a little shout out, man. Appreciate you guys for watching us. You guys are awesome so far. You guys are killing it, man. Tony and you also, Jake. Listen, what about you? Famous last words. If Ryan Poles is watching this right now, why should the Bears draft Mason Graham at 10? What's one last closing comment you could say, Jake?
His motor doesn't turn off, and that's a player that the Bears need on the defense because I can't tell you how many times that the Bears have come out and played great in the first quarter, played great the first couple drives, but as soon as that second quarter or second half hit, our defense was gassed. They started giving up runs, started giving up big downs, and Mason Graham will flip that all around, and he'll keep that defense going all game.
I like that. That's a good solid take, man. Do you think that pairing him with Sweat, Edmonds, and Brisker all of a sudden makes our defense look scary, Jake?
I do. I could be a number one defense in the game.
And listen, I really appreciate the fact that people like Jay Grizz are making that that point that we do need another defensive end and an edge rusher. Tony said that he agrees with you guys out there in the building. But listen, here's the deal. We had an edge rusher, and we also brought in Booker, and we brought in a couple other guys to come in and out. It wasn't enough. You got to have interior defensive linemen. Why do you need interior defensive linemen to make those edges better, Tony?
Because you push the pocket and quarterback can't step up.
Yeah, I agree. And Tony, do you think that will sometimes you'll get a double team inside the pocket and allow the edge to break free one-on-one?
Absolutely. I mean, Mason Graham's that type of player that he is gonna require having some double teams on him. So, yeah, absolutely. Anytime you get a force, I mean, look at, and I'm not saying that he's Aaron Donald, but look at Aaron Donald. I mean, anytime you played, I mean, we had Leonard Floyd.
Yeah.
Leonard Floyd wasn't as good as people thought. You know, he went to the Rams and he became a stud. That's because he had Aaron Donald in the middle.
Yeah.
You know, so having somebody that can push that pocket in the middle absolutely makes your ends better. Absolutely.
So Keds brings up a good point. He says, so you're spending your first round pick to add depth at defensive tackle instead of a starter?
Absolutely. He will be a starter. He will be a starter.
Two things can happen at the same time is what I'm hearing. Is that right, guys? You can draft him and he will be a starter and depth at the same time. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. Now, and also you're plugging a hole for now and in the future.
Right. And I don't think that some guys understand that you need a little bit more defensive linemen at the 4-3 instead of the 3-4.
We need rotations.
Listen, the NFL is built on the defensive linemen now rotate, and this is a copycat league. If you didn't see how the Philadelphia Eagles won that game, that Super Bowl, it's because they had plenty of line.
Yeah.
And this is a copycat league. Believe me, the NFL is going in that direction right now, to where you need to keep rotating guys in and out and keeping them fresh.
Nobody questioned why Philadelphia Eagles, with the defensive line that they had, they went out and got Jalen Carter. And guess what? They won.
Absolutely.
Mic drop. I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't hesitate. I'd run to the podium. And honestly, if you look around in the entire landscape of all Bears fans and shows and whatever, there's a lot of people. It's not just this show that's saying that we should definitely look at Mason Graham at 10 or even potentially move up in the draft to get this guy. He is that dude. In many people's minds, he is the alpha in the draft at defensive lineman.
No doubt. My opinion, he's probably, I mean, it's kind of hard to say with why am I drawing a blank? The kid that from Colorado.
Yeah.
He's probably the best defensive player in the draft, but you can argue Mason Graham's that best defensive player in all of the draft. Or no, I'm sorry. I'm not putting him over Abdul Carter. No, Abdul Carter definitely is. But Mason Graham is definitely up there, no doubt.
And I think for all intents and purposes, I think a lot of people are stuck on this whole 3 technique. He moved around a lot. We watch highlight reel of several games. You guys watch all the games. You're not just, and a lot of us we're passive college football supporters. And especially if the Michigan Wolverines don't check our boxes of the team that we watch. Maybe there's some guys that, watch Ohio State or, a team like that. That's as amazing as they are. But, here's the deal. These guys have watched it. We watched a little bit of that tape. You could see he doesn't just stay at the 3 tech. He can play multiple positions and very good on the defensive line. You can move him in and out. He does not have to stay 3 tech at all.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
He's played DN before at Michigan. I've seen him go at DN before.
Yeah, they've seen him at D end, and that would be great. I mean, mismatches, that's what Dennis Allen likes. Listen, he wants to put pressure. He has to put pressure with his front 4. He likes to disguise the back 9 and mix it all up. His front 4 have to win the push all the time. What does that say to you? They're running and gunning a lot. They're working their tails off. That's why he needs 8 guys. Okay, it's not up to us to decide what Dennis Allen wants. It's up to us to give him what he needs. he needs more help. It's not there. You're not going to trust a 31-year-old guy who's had injuries. Not saying he's at the end of his career. He might have 2-3 good left in the tank. But listen, make mistake about it. He has had some decline, and rightfully so at 31 years old. When you've hit the trenches as hard as he has, you're going to see that. And the body doesn't bounce back when you're on the wrong side of 30 on the defensive line. You got to go get that guy now instead of the last minute. I see this in the workforce all the time, not just in the NFL, where they don't give enough time to bring a guy up as an apprentice and take him with the journeyman and shadow and learn all the nuances and try to cultivate that and bring him up. And then you have gaps. Listen, that's what happened. And Tony talks about this earlier. If you guys weren't paying attention or showed up late, shame on you. The thing about it is like the Bears allowed the tenure of certain players like the Urlacher, the Briggs, and all these guys to get long in the tooth before they replaced them. This is where you start it now. History shouldn't repeat itself, and shame on you guys for not wanting that to happen. You got to sprinkle in some young guys with the old guys. Anything you want to add and touch on that, Tony?
No, you hit the point. You hit it right on the point. 100%.
And listen, it's not the sexiest thing to go get. I understand you guys want more toys, like you wanted Roma Dunze. Okay, but guess what happened? Caleb was on his back, 68 sacks. Our defensive line gave up 4.5 freaking, yards per rush. We were back end 31-32 in pass rush efficiency, pass rate. And listen, we got to do better. And it's not just signing about 2 or 3 guys in the free agency. You got to go get the guy in the draft. And that's why a lot of guys are clamoring and wanting this guy still, even though we went out and got a few guys. And listen, we already got some edge rushers. Guess what Landon Jackson's pro comp is? It's Dio. That's his pro comp because Dio with the Colts can play at the 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. He can play all those positions. You can put him anywhere you want. You've already got Landon Jackson in Dio. That's his pro comp right there. Boom. Forget Landon. He's done. You got Dio in the building, and he's only 24 years old. You got to get, like Tony said earlier, and Jake, you got to get those guys in the middle. The guys that clog the gaps, the guys that you got to, put 1 or 2 guys on them. Right, Tony?
Yep. Collapse the pocket.
Yeah. Let's see what else is going on in the chat, guys. Not saying he will fill those shoes, but if he's as good as folks say he is, he could be the leader of that D line for a long time. We want a decade of dominance. That's what Mongo was.
That's a great point. He has that talent in my mind, and he has that motor that, yes, Jake said it earlier, look to be him. If the Bears draft him, he's going to be a captain within the next couple of years. For sure.
I like what Cliff says, Tony, and you're 100% right, by the way, Tony. Cliff says, let's hope Ben and Allen help Poles with his day 2 picks. Poles has been bad in round 3. Listen, iron sharpens iron. Tony and I talked about this earlier in the day, and I hope all of his coworkers are everybody. He's not spending all day talking Bears. He's a very busy man, so that's not what I'm getting at. But listen, here's the deal. Let's hope Ben and Allen help Poles. He didn't have that help last year. Who is he going to go to talk about the offensive side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball, the offensive line coach, the defensive line coach? He didn't have anybody to talk to. Now he's got plenty of help to go out and go get those guys. You guys want to add on any of that?
I'm just going to say that Dennis Allen likes the type of guys that have high motors too. So this guy fits right in Dennis Allen's wheelhouse.
Yep. What about you, Jake? What say you, buddy?
I agree. The motor on him is amazing, and his attitude, I just think he has one of the best mindsets you can have, especially going into the NFL.
I agree, man. Yeah, for sure. 100%. Jay Grizz says he does like the idea of drafting Grant later instead as well. Hey, man, that would be a good problem to have. If you can't get Mason Graham at 10, which you probably won't, go out and get Grant. And watch, I guarantee if you go look at those other guys, those other teams, they've got other defensive linemen that are probably pretty good. And you're probably like, why in the hell would you go get that youngster in the draft when why would you waste a 1st round pick on that guy so early? How could you do that? Cliff says, I want to see if Pickens can improve with coaching.
I hope so.
That would be great.
I hope so.
That would be great. Ked says, Ant Mash, you might be right. The big board is ever shifting. Jackson Dart is moving up to be a QB needy team too. Who did we see earlier, Tony, that he was going to? Jackson Dart?
It was somebody later, I think, but I've seen some mock drafts that has New Orleans taking them.
Yeah. Jay Gris says not at 10, but if we trade back, yes. Keds is trying to call me out again. He says he think you mean unicorns. Zebras are everywhere in Africa. Listen, bro, I'm not in Africa. I'm not in Africa, okay? I got to go to a zoo if I want to see a zebra. And there's not a flock of zebra. I see a flock of seagulls, okay? You're arguing my point for me. Cliff says Dallas wants a running back. Harbaugh wants a running back. Other teams too. After what Saquon did last year, Bears may have trade partners if Jeanty is there at 10. I like that thought. What do you guys think, Tony? What do you think, Jake? Jake, let's start off with you. What do you think about that?
I think trading back is always a great opportunity because this draft has so much talent in it, and losing the 10, I wouldn't even say it's losing the 10 spot. You could be gaining so much from giving up that 10 and going down.
That's a good point. What about you, Tony?
Well, I'm a big Mason Graham fan, so if Mason Graham's there at 10, I do not want to trade down. Anybody else, I'll trade down.
That's a good point. Jake Gers says Zorch always played out of position. He really should have been a linebacker like he was in high school coming out of CVS. Okay.
I think he was too slow.
We'll have to ask him sometime. We've had him on the show. I'd like to have him on again.
Yeah. Well, don't tell him I said he was too slow, though, all right?
No, I won't. I'll let you do that. Jay Gris says Zorch should have never been a defensive tackle in college, even though he had a great career at his size playing nose tackle. How can we say that to people over 60 in the building? Shout out to you guys. Keep them coming. Keep sharing the video. Hit that like button. Make sure you guys subscribe. Appreciate you guys. Jay Gris says Zorch should have never listen. How would you say that he should have never been a defensive tackle if he had success? Like, are we calling ourselves? I know you guys. I'll take the Bears fans over all 32 teams in the NFL. Smartest ones in the bunch. I have to say that because I'm one of them, right, guys? But listen, how are we going to outsmart somebody that was actually very efficient and effective and had a great career? I don't know. I don't get that take, but 97 was my number in high school. That's cool, Jay Grizz. Mine was 77, the year I was born. Remember Steve Entman, Washington Husky, but I didn't play high school football. You know what I meant. Steve Entman, Washington Husky. No, I don't remember him.
I remember Steve Entman.
You do? What about him?
What do I remember about him?
Yeah.
I do remember watching a lot of him in college. I don't think he made much of himself in the pros, though.
Oh, okay. Cliff says, Ant Mash, yes, still Harbaugh, maybe looking for a long-term guy. Jay Gris says, thanks. Cliff says you can never have enough good linemen. If nothing else, you get comp picks when you lose some of them. Ooh, that's a good one. I like that. That's a solid take, guys. You like that take?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jay Gris says, I'm so intrigued by Ben Johnson being in the draft war room and would love to know if he was the reasoning behind the Jamar Gibbs pick in Detroit. You know what? Cliff says, me too. I think we all would like to, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I'd like to know that too. I think he was. I think he was.
That's a good point. Jay Gris says that's the X factor, in my opinion, Cliff Victoria. Cliff says Ked's best player available. Yep. I
agree with that.
Cliff says I'd prefer a starter, but you guys aren't understanding something.
Mason Graham is a starter.
He's going to be a starter on any team.
Any team. You know what? No matter what, they're going to have a rotation. Either you rotate Mason Graham with Jarrett or Billings or Dexter, or you're going to have someone of lesser talents that are going to rotate in with them, because there is going to be a rotation, and you have top guys in that rotation. And believe me, you're constantly making plays, you ain't going out of that lineup, you know? I mean, to get breathers you are. Mason Graham is 100% going to be a full-time starter no matter what team he signs with
Yeah.
in his
Mason Graham's
first
not
year.
the type that wants a break either.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's no doubt. He is a 100% starter.
Do It All 36 says he needs to do his 40 and workout split. The Bears can draft whoever they have on their board. I hate the fact everyone wants to play GM. I don't. I love it. I think it's fun. This is a great time of year. Cheryl Childers says, awesome show with Tony and Jake tracks. Thank you. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thanks, Cheryl.
She's the one that does all our birthdays. She knows everybody's birthday in the whole building. We've got like 10,000 people over all these areas, and she keeps them all. She does dinners, like what's for dinner, all this cool stuff. And she gives us updates to all the games, whether it be baseball, basketball, hockey, you name it. Even the Bears. She's giving us updates in the chats all the time. Hardest worker in the building. If I had two more of her, we probably wouldn't even need me. And the lady, she's found a fountain of youth because, dude, people half her age, not calling you old. I'm shutting my mouth. Cliff says,
Yeah.
"Hey, Cheryl." Jay Grizz says, "Yep, Eagles never draft any skill position talent except." James says, "I agree, dude. They do pretty good in the free agency and trades, man. They're freaking shout out to them for picking up that receiver from the Titans. I mean, that was solid, guys, wasn't it?"
Yeah. I mean, the Philadelphia, I'm telling you, it's a copycat league. A lot of people are gonna take a page out of their book, and I know they're not a dynasty or anything at this point,
Right.
but they put together a good team, and they did it by building the trenches. I mean, you want to talk about why would you waste a guy that, you know, is not going to start or whatever.
Yeah.
They kept building their trenches. I mean, look at when Kelsey retired. You know, everybody thought, well, there goes the tush push, you know. I mean, they're not going to be able to do that anymore. This guy that stepped in didn't miss a beat. Didn't even notice Jason Kelsey gone because they drafted younger and they thought about the future as much as they did the present. So keep building those trenches.
I love
That's
it.
something I want to see the Bears keep doing. Bears have never. I don't think I've ever seen the Bears do a successful tush push. It makes me mad. It makes me almost want to turn off the game. I don't think it's ever worked for the Bears, and that needs to get going because that's such a weapon to have on the
But
offense.
that's,
Is the
Jake,
tush
because
push.
that's because we've had these knucklehead offensive coordinators that would be 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, and they're pitching the ball 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. That's why we never get first downs. You know, I mean, a lot of it to me is play calling. We need somebody in there that knows how to call plays.
Look at
You
this.
need a half a yard. You don't throw the ball back 5 yards.
Amen. I like that. I like that. That's a good one. Cliff says, I like this take. Good teams keep the rotation of old guys, new guys going. Like I said before, earlier, we've all said it. Everybody can't be a 22-year-old stud player out of college, you know, on your team. You can't have just a whole team of 22-year-olds, right, guys? It can't happen.
No, that's a great point, Cliff.
Got to have your veterans.
Yeah. Good point, Cliff. Cliff says Bill Belichick did that also. I agree. No,
Bill Belichick was known for getting rid of guys at the end of their prime for a first-round draft pick, and he like timed it perfect. I mean, he was great at getting rid of guys at the right time.
Tony, look at this take, and you too, Jake. Jay Griss says, "Nope, not me. I wanted Alt." I know you guys aren't big fans of Notre Dame, but dude, could you imagine? Listen, your own guy, Jim Harbaugh, your own guy from Jim Harbaugh from the freaking Michigan Wolverines. Who did he go out and get? He went out.
I don't know.
He went out and got Joe Alt, bro. That guy's a stud offensive lineman for the Chargers.
I was praying Joe Alt somehow fell to the Bears last year.
Dude,
I was
Roma Dunze
praying
will
for
become
that.
a stud wide receiver.
What'd you say?
Roma Dunze will become a stud wide receiver.
I said I was last year's draft. I was praying Joe Alt dropped to us.
You know why Roma Dunze wasn't a stud wide receiver in his rookie year?
Because they didn't let him have growth because he had, I think, picking up Keenan Allen put a damper on his growth because he's a good enough player to where they could have just played with DJ Moore and Roma Dunze, and they could have gotten a lower down player for cheaper. I think this year you're going to see a lot more out of him, not having a veteran like Keenan Allen.
That and Williams didn't have time to throw the ball a lot too.
68
Exactly.
sacks, 68
It's a combination.
on his back. If you had an offensive line, all those receivers would have got the ball more for sure.
Yeah.
You know? Or
But
60
here's the thing: is everybody's got to remember too. Ben Johnson's offense is based around the run, so
Run
don't
first.
expect him to have any run and gun type of offense and throwing the ball all the time. The way he does is he keeps the defense on its toes. He'll run when it's 3rd and 6 or 7. He'll, you don't know what the guy is going to do. So,
So many creative plays.
right. So, but I'm excited.
And what did he tell his wide receivers? If you don't block, you don't get the rock.
No
So,
block, no rock.
yep. Jay Grizz says, or verse. Alt or verse. I like verse too. Rome will earn his paycheck starting this season. Keenan took a lot of targets away from him. Listen,
Exactly.
listen.
I agree with that.
Here's the other thing too. They got him at the right time, and they found somebody. You can't get all young guys. You got to get an old guy, because guess what he did? Not only did Keenan Allen, they said this about Keenan Allen. He was a coach on the field. He
I
not
believe
only
that.
he not
For sure.
only helped Roma Dunze, and Roma Dunze has even gave credit to his, his fruition as a rookie and his growth and development. Guess who else? Caleb Williams. He helped both those guys out, and I'm sure that didn't stop there. The guy's a tremendous talent. I don't take anything away from him. I think it was a solid take. I think he would have had a better year. I think a lot of guys would have had a better year if we had an offensive line. Listen, I think our linebackers would have had a better year. Sanborn might still be in the damn building if we would have had a better defensive line. I stand on that.
I agree.
Like Sanborn.
Yeah.
Sanborn was playing a little out of position, though. I mean, he excelled as a middle linebacker.
I agree.
But you weren't going to replace, Edmonds on there. So, but yeah, I think Sanborn, he needs to be a middle linebacker somewhere.
And look at all these receivers that are getting 34, 40 mil. When you got Caleb and you got Rome, right? You got a half a decade of dominance between both of them, together a full decade, but each of them 5 years, okay? And here's the deal. Those are two of the most expensive positions in the NFL. And that's how long you don't have to worry about paying those guys, because you already see what's happening with, the Bengals. All their money's on offense, guys. They might not even be able to sign their lead pass rusher in Trey Hendrickson. Don't get Tony started on that one.
Yeah, don't get me started on that.
17 and a half sacks. The guy's a monster. You barely have enough money. They'll probably get it done, but they're going to be in cap purgatory and then in hell.
Well, here's the thing: is he's
figure it
under
out.
contract for 1 more year.
Yeah.
So they may just let him play under there and let him become a free agent next year, but they do not have to get rid of him right now.
Yeah, I agree. Jay Griff says, you're right, Trax. This is an oxymoronic comment by me. What? Hey, you said you had me at you're right. I barely hear that, so I love it. Thank you.
I don't know. You see my sister in here trying to act like she knows what we're talking about.
Oh, she's in here?
Yeah, she.
You
peeked
can't
in.
even see, Jake. Your picture's not up there.
Mine's not.
No.
Hey, listen
I
to
see
this,
myself.
guys. Where do you stand on the need for safety, and how do you feel about and Worry? 2 questions. Let's answer the first one. Tony.
First one, I think we do need some more depth at safety. Brisker's too much of a question mark with his health,
Yeah.
but I do love Brisker. And also Bayard is he's getting older, so you do have to start thinking about safety too. So
Yeah.
we'll see. In fact, I have a feeling that the Bears are going to address that in the second round.
That's a good point. I wouldn't have a problem with that. Would you, Jake? But how do you feel about Worry? I'll be honest with you. I don't know enough about him. I'm hoping I don't have to say that name. There's a lot of guys.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys out there. Like, Jake, I just wish there was a lot of guys that had your name that make it a lot easier on me. This is crazy, bro. This is exotic, like that freaking.
I'm not even. I don't know
team
much
out in
about him
Africa.
either. One player that the Bears don't need him, but a player that I think would be awesome to have, and this isn't just being a Michigan fan, is
Yeah.
Will Johnson.
Okay.
But at the safety spot,
Yeah.
I think there needs to be depth there because I think we've had a lot of errors on deep balls and spots where the safeties needed to pick up.
I like that kid out of Maryland in the 5th round, I believe, projected to go. He's like 6'2", almost 200 pounds. He can play, cornerback and safety. I think it'd be nice to get a tweener guy there that could do a little bit of both. You know what I'm saying? So I think those guys are important. They're not just important on the offensive line, defensive line. They're important everywhere on the football field, right, Jake? I'm sure you've been helpful in more than one position at some times,
All around.
Yeah, for sure. So Jay Grizz says, "What's up, Fosters? Thumbs up. Shout out to everybody in the chat. You guys are killing it, man. You guys are killing it. Jags want Graham badly. Yeah, that's one of the ones that Tony and I saw earlier today. Jags do want him. There's like 3 or 4 teams that want him. It's crazy. And the Jags have good defensive linemen. Shout out to Romy for bringing that up. Cliff says, my meaning on having a starter is Jeanty would be on the field more than Graham year one.
True. But,
that is true. That is true. That's oh, wait a second. No, if the split is 60-40, like most running backs, I don't know if it goes 77, maybe like 66. I don't know. Mason Graham might be on the field.
Well, Jeanty's going to be if they drafted Jeanty, he'd be a huge part of that offense. But you also have to think about the rest of the team. I mean, when you have a draft that has such deep running backs,
true,
you can still get a quality running back at that position later in the draft. Go try to find someone even close to Mason Graham later in the draft. You ain't gonna. It's not gonna happen. First of all, Grant's not going to drop to the 2nd round, in my opinion, and he might be the closest thing to having a stud defensive tackle. So Mason Graham's there still, in my opinion. You're taking him. I get your point with Jeanty.
Yeah.
Part of me love to see him in a Bear uniform. I'd love to see what he can do with Ben Johnson.
Part of me would not like to see everybody look like Ashton Jeanty running up the damn middle for 4.5 yards a carry. Okay, so that's why I want him over a freaking stud running back like Ashton Jeanty. I'm sorry, dude. It's enough for me. It's enough for me. It's very, very degrading and demoralizing to see teams run on our beloved Bears. It's got to stop. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think we've already gotten better there, but this is only going to make us that much better.
For sure.
So,
absolutely. Yeah. Romy said, what's up, Grizz? Defensive line carry the most rotation. Foster, you're 100% correct. Hey, Foster, my man. Ked says there are positions where a draft selection starts on the Bears. 3 tech isn't one of them. Man, he keeps bringing it up that he's a 3 tech. Okay. Cheryl says she's proud of her age. I knew that. She is proud of her age. Sorry about that, Cheryl. Sorry about that. Cheryl or Cliff says Eagles GM is the best in the business. Roseman. Yes, I think he's definitely one of the tops for sure. For sure, man. He gets brought up a lot. Foster says 6 rookies played for Philly in the Super Bowl. That's freaking amazing. Good point, Foster. I love that. Guys got a great show on BCP. You guys got to go check it out, man. Good, solid group of guys there. Gris says, yep, Howie Roseman, Cliff Victoria. You can't have light athletic guys in tush push. You need big dogs. That's a good point. Eagles have abundance of high-end players, and not all of them are superstars. Chiefs too. That's 4 Super Bowl wins. Wow. That's a good point, Foster. Foster's got a lot of good points, guys. Okay. So James says, I'd go for alt 2, Grizz. Almost done with the chat. Allen was a mistake. Edmonds 2. Watch Sanborn light it up in Dallas. I don't know. I'm the jury's still out on Edmonds. I mean, just because we paid more, just because he demands more. Listen, if we get a better defensive line and we've got a better defensive, coach, defensive coordinator, watch Edmonds to make a jump too. It's possible. I would want him to do good. Oh, there's Olivia's comment. She says, "Jake, you're a baddie, bro." Hey, there she is, bro. She says, "Jake, you're a baddie, bro." Shout out.
She needs to get out. She needs to get out of here.
She needs to get
Let's
out
just
of
say
here.
that. Hey, all I gotta say is she's not a true Bear fan, so she can out the door.
Oh, shots
Yeah,
fired! Shots
out the
fired!
door.
All right, let's stop this battle right now.
I get it. All of a sudden, Tony turned into a zebra rough right now, huh? Oh, Keds the Canuck says,
That's my life.
yeah, I hear you. Jay Grizz says, thumbs up, Foster covers. Olivia says, agreed. Cheryl says, Nuggets 90, Bulls 95, 11 minutes left in the game. Yeah.
Bulls have won 7 out of the last 9.
Really? That's great.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
and they're
cool,
still
man.
not. They're still 10 games under 500.
I want him to play 500.
Yeah, but they're only 2 games out of a playoff spot too.
Playing, yeah.
They're 2 games out.
Playing, yeah.
Jay Grizz says, I intrigued to see what Allen is going to do with Edmonds, though Foster. Yeah, I am too, man. Let's see what he does with them. Hell no, we don't replace Edmonds on that one, Olivia says. Illinois Jones says, where do you gentlemen stand on the need for safety? We already addressed that. I think that's a later comment, but they know where we stand on it for sure. How high would you guys go for a safety? I think you said second round, right, Tony? What about you, Jake?
I said I had a feeling that they were going to go second round on somebody, but like we talked about earlier, I think your second round with the 39 and 41st pick, you have to also take a player that should have went in the first round that drops to you. You know, I mean, there's going to be those players that fall through those cracks. And if it's a safety, great. You know, I mean, we still have a pretty good third round pick as well. So I think you can find a safety there. But I do agree that we do need some more depth at safety.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, Jake? How early would you like to see them go at safety, bro?
I think they could even drop to like third round or something like that, because you do still have 2 veterans that have been in the spot for a while. So
Yeah.
I think you need a guy that can learn off of them and play behind them. But when they need maybe a single play off, where they both need a single play off, you can get him in and get him some learning moments and some teaching moments. But I don't think he's someone that you have to take at the second round spot.
And Jonathan Owens, keep your wife off the field if she's going to wear Packers gear, okay? I don't care.
Agreed.
I do not care if your mug is all over that. Listen, you're on the Bears field. You're in Bears, you're in Bears country. Do not do that again. Go out there, hurry up, rush, send it out, bring it in, and wear that jacket. Do not bring a Green Bay Packer jacket to the Bears field, to your husband's work, man. That's not cool. Not cool.
Yep, I agree.
Jay, do you want him to wear a picture of his ex-girlfriend around you? Do you want him to parade around there with a t-shirt that's got a picture of his ex-girlfriend? No, we don't want a picture or an emblem of a Green Bay Packer in any way, shape, or form.
Let's ask her what she would feel like if he wore a jacket with the Canadian flag on it during the Olympics.
Oh, yes, that's
right.
good.
I mean, that's the same damn thing.
Yeah, I shouldn't have went to the home front. That was but I mean, it wasn't that bad. But yeah, I agree. The whole Canadian. That's a good take. Good take. Jay Gris says, "See red, Cheryl." Agreed. Foster says, "Agreed." Jay Grizz. I would have liked to have had the chance to see both Edmonds and Sanborn in the middle. Ooh, that'd be nice. I like that. Cliff says, my buddy wants Trey Hendrickson bad. What if Bears have a chance to trade for Hendrickson? Says he'll sit out a year. Could happen. What do you guys think? Trey Hendrickson on the Bears? Trey Hendrickson?
I'd love to see it, but I don't want to give up too much for it.
I think he's getting
Depends
a little
on
old
what
too.
the compensation's got to be. And then don't forget, he wants a huge contract too. So you pick him up, he's going to demand 30+ million a year.
I don't see him being a long-term player either. I think he's getting a little older. and at that
Yeah.
position, that's not a position where you can go into your 40s or your upper 30s to play.
That's what Tony was saying earlier about Myles Garrett, and I believe they're very close to the same age, so that makes a good point for sure.
Yeah.
Romy
Brandon,
said,
I'm going to give you a quick, my phone's about to die. So
okay.
if I disappear on you, let me say one quick thing beforehand. Shout out to all you fans out there, everybody on the chat. You know, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. You know, Brandon does a lot of homework here. He's a great channel to follow, man. Guys, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Helps out the channel a lot. And, you know, shout out to all of you.
Awesome. Good job. Hey, and tell them about Worth, man. Tell them to come check them out.
Guys, Worth Stadium Club out in Worth, Illinois. Little sports bar. It's a nice, homey little place. More of a mature crowd than it is young kids. You want to come out and watch, you know, got 6 TVs in there, 6 70-inch screen TVs. Great place to watch the games. Great staff, great food. Guys, come on out, man. It's a great place, man. I guarantee you'll have fun.
And you never know who might pull up. He's had a lot of celebs out there, even throwing the football with some kids out there, man.
Man, I was out there playing catch. Me and Jake were out there playing catch with Doug Plank. Doesn't get any better than that.
No,
You know, had Dan Hampton in the building. You know, we've had some great stars there, you know, with the help of Brandon, of course. But yeah, you never know when you're going to see somebody. So give Worth Stadium Club a shot if you guys are at all close.
yeah,
Tell them that you know Tony, and they'll take care of you there.
for sure. Juicy cheeseburgers, great drinks. These guys they bring it, man. It's good stuff. And Jake, they got some good food there, buddy.
Oh, for sure. Big
You
food
heard-
guy. Offensive line, big food guy. I can tell you
Yeah,
all
you
about
got
it.
to, right? You got to. Hey, you guys heard it first from Tony. Bears fans, do you agree? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe now so we can hit 3,000 subscribers and give away that free jersey. Okay, guys? Just like the cool one that Jake's got right there. This is Bears on Tracks, and I'm Brandon Trax Hyatt. Bear down, guys. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe and hit that bell, that notification bell. And so you guys could all get a chance of that jersey giveaway, 3,000 subs, man. So like and share and comment your thoughts on Mason Graham. We want to hear your comments on Mason Graham. Until, guys, Chi-Town up, bear down. Thanks again, Jake. Thanks again, Tony. Appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome.